with nature. For those of you who haven't heard this particular term, design with nature, actually is a book. It's a title of a book written by a 20th century landscape architect called Ian McCarg, who is a Scottish architect, landscape architects to be more precise. He's written several books, but this particular book, Design with Nature, which was written in 1969, caught the attention of the world for the first time, that how human beings can like design with nature. All this while during the modernist period, people were building very stark buildings and a lot of concrete. They were more buildings which were like standalone, almost trying to convey that, look at me, I'm a human creation, and they forgot to integrate design of nature or nature as part of the design. So to me, for every singular difficult problem, I would always say that look at nature. Nature has solutions for all the problems that we as human beings have created over generations, over civilizations. To me, all buildings, all architects must build with nature. It's like every building of ours should be a green building. It's like having good manners. If you're an educated, civilized person, you're expected to have good manners. Just like that, I feel that like all buildings must have good manners. That means all buildings must be sustainable and they all must be green. And one of the things in CCBA, which my mentor, Professor Christopher Benninger, who is no more, we lost him about 10 months back. He has inculcated in all our thinking process in CCBA designs, in all the architects, is that like, look at nature, be sustainable, and borrow the landscape. The word borrowing landscape means that like you need to borrow what is an element that is around you, which is a part of nature, that actually you can bring it into the building. Like, for example, if there is a view of a mountain, capture it in our balcony or in your window. If there is a view of an ocean or a water body or a river, capture it, bring it into your building. This is something like you're doing it free. You don't even have to pay for this. That is the essence of good architecture. If I always say that if you have bad architecture, have a great landscape plan to hide bad architecture. Like recently I was transferring from Bangalore airport, and I was so fascinated to see this new terminal built with bamboo. It really is a different approach, and you feel that that there is a comforting factor. Human beings always find it extremely comfortable to be part and parcel of nature. So Bangalore is a very good example. But however, as Leonard, my partner in this crime, he was talking about Singapore, projects around Singapore and in Singapore. Let's understand that Singapore is a city state. There is one particular kind of climate. It allows the luxury of having rainfall almost every single afternoon. So there's a kind of a nice feel when you go to Singapore, because it's always very green, something mimicking to what we have in India in the monsoon. Unfortunately, or let's say fortunately, India is a very, very large country. It has probably the coldest place in Dras up in Ladakh area, the wettest place in the Northeast India in a place called Chirapunji, and the driest and the hottest place in Jaisalmer. And so we are divided by many, many climatic zones, many, many terrains with a huge, vast biodiversity. Now, when you're playing with architecture and landscape in a large country like India, I think it's very essential that I must send a message to our audience who are primarily architects, that do not mimic magazines and books, and do not mimic something that you see elsewhere. I think look at your own climatic conditions, design with those climatic conditions, especially when you're designing in India, in a place like Pune or in a place like Hyderabad. Please, for God's sake, don't mimic like the creepers and the green things that like Leonard has shown in some of your buildings, because they will just last for 3 months and the rest of the time it's going to be dry. Your buildings are not going to look nice. So we need to be very careful what we adapt, how it responds to our climate, and how it is going to enhance the beauty and the quality of our spaces, right?
So, how do you balance emotional resonance with functionality?
Hmm. That is our USP.
Yes, I'm sure.
See, when we are building any project, first I think we greatly try to understand, like, can our buildings be timeless? Are we building for the season or are we building for eternity?
Yeah.
Because we very clearly believe that, like, architecture is very clearly linked to our history, and we should learn from history. When you learn from history, the spirituality kind of draws in always. And so we study a lot. We try to understand, like, what are the elements that we can borrow from the past, adapt for the present, and make sure that they kind of survive into the future. And I think all buildings must be spiritual, because buildings are the places where you modify your behavior. And
Yes.
your buildings must actually inculcate in the people who are occupying that, like, I have come to an important space. I have come to a sacred space. Just like when you go to a temple, you modify your behavior. You no longer use bad language. You are behaving yourself. So, if a building can do that, if it can bring in spirituality, if it can modify your emotions, if it can elevate your mundane life, I think you have done what is called a timeless building.
Thank you. Thank you for such a thoughtful answer. All right. The next question is for Ramprasad sir. It says, what role can architects and planners play in restoring lost ecosystems within cityscapes?
What role can architects play? I think they can play the role of, I think, the torch bearers, I would say, like, because they understand what would be lost greatly if we don't integrate nature in the built form. As you can see, it's like, architects do have a better understanding of what built environment can do to our space, like all our urban landscapes. If you look at it today, they are so challenged. To a great extent, I would say, like, the problem has been created by us. So if we can understand right at the alphabetical level that like we should build considering that, like, we must respect nature, we should incorporate nature, and we should celebrate nature. As I said in the very beginning of my talk, that, like, building with nature is like having good manners. So I would say, like, all architects, please have good manners.
I really like that point when you started your presentation with that. So, absolutely well said. Any takeaway that you would want to quickly share with all of us so that the audience can take them?
The takeaway for all your audience, including me, is in your topic itself: design with nature and planning for planet and people. So, as I told, that I want to expand the sustainability aspect, not just limited to environment, but to culture as well as economy. So there should be something which is called cultural sustainability as well as an economic sustainable. Because why cultural sustainability is important is that today, if you look at, like, buildings in Shanghai, Mumbai, or Dubai, they all look the same. We need to kind of bring in what is called the cultural nuances, the place where it is built. That's very important. This is something which we learned when we were working in Bhutan, when we were designing the buildings over there. Economic sustainability is also very important. We are not very rich country, and there are many countries which are poorer than us, like in Africa and in Central Asia and in other parts of the world. India has to give solutions which are, like, minimal but also effective, and for the larger global south, where they are looking at, like, solutions from a country which has many birth pangs in coming out of their age old traditions into the modern life. So I think India can lend solutions of these two sustainability topics, which I call cultural sustainability as well as economic sustainability.
To sum it up, I think having an expansive heart and an expansive mind, and then actually going all out to be absolutely sustainable. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, that brings us to the end of this wonderful VC live session. Thank you so much to our incredible speakers and to all of you in the audience for joining in.